Before we begin, in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining children under the age of 13, violating the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies meant to dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. This video is not made for kids. It is not targeted at kids. It is not advertising to kids. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. It's that time of the year again, looking at the latest release of my favorite Doctor Who spinoff. Today we will be reviewing The Diary of River Song, Series 7, released in January of 2020, directed by Ken Bentley. Series 7 once again stars Alex Kingston as River Song. As always, I will be talking spoilers. I'll try to avoid them much more this time because this is a mystery series, and, it's no fun to listen to when you already know who's done it. But, yeah, you know how this works. This set contains 4 stories. Let's just jump right into it. And real quick, I'd like to apologize as it is really windy and stormy and icky out today, so you might get some background noise as I review. And Series 7 opens with Colony of Strangers by James Goss. This is a play on the Scandi noir genre of mysteries, shows like The Killing. And now that I think about it, I can't think of other Scandi noir series. It's not a genre I'm that familiar with. I just know, as far as I know, this is Big Finish's second time doing a Scandi noir type story. 2 years ago, they did a Colin Baker story called The Hunting Ground, which was the same genre. Anyway, this story sees River on a colony world investigate the deaths of mysterious creatures that start washing up on the beach as she's vacationing. And from the get-go, this story is really atmospheric. There is so much tension in every scene. And the atmosphere, as I just said, is great. It really sets up how bitterly cold this place is. You feel the chill as you listen to it. Unfortunately, for the most part, the atmosphere and the phenomenal tension are all this story has going for it. This is one of the better mysteries in the set, but just the way this story is executed, it's kind of boring. And I think that's because, part of it is because Scandi noir is such a visual drama. That is such a visual genre, There are times when it gets really quiet, where things are being conveyed without anything being said. And it's just, obviously a genre like that doesn't translate well to audio. There are some other good moments, though, like sort of the quote-unquote companion in this series, an officer named Carl. He's really good. His chemistry with River is really good. And the actor's performance is good enough that there's just enough, it's like, can you trust this guy? Because there's just something off about him the entire time. There's just enough to make things uneasy. And I kind of like River's reasons for being there. When the story first opens, she initially says she's on a vacation, and then as it progresses, she tells Carl that her husband, the doctor, sends her to these places that obviously have something going on, but he can't get there for one reason or another, so he sends River, which I thought that was an interesting dynamic. There's only one other major character we meet. There's a couple of minor characters, and we really don't meet them till towards the end of the story. And she's sort of the mayor of this town, and she's all right enough. I feel like they were trying to set up a twist with her character, but it just really kind of comes off as inconsistent. And as this story progresses and we learn what's going on, and again, I'm not going to spoil it, I'm just going to say it feels kind of like an undeserved twist, Kind of like an episode of Murder, She Wrote. Some of the episodes, you could follow along, get the evidence, and figure out who did it. But most of the episodes, especially the later episodes, you only know who did it because Jessica reveals a piece of evidence that only she was privy to. And Colony of Strangers kinda does the same thing. It's kind of an undeserved twist. But like I said, up until that point, the tension is really great. The atmosphere is really great, but ultimately it's just not enough to really save this story because the pacing is really slow and it just drags. Following that is Abbey of Heretics by Lisbeth Miles. This story, because each of these 4 stories I should have mentioned, play on a different type of crime genre. This one is a cozy mystery, like Agatha Christie's Poirot, Rosemary and Thyme, Murder, She Wrote. In fact, Lisbeth Miles, in the making of, said that this story was based on Cadfile, a sort of cozy mystery where Derek Jacobi plays a monk. And yeah, so that's kind of what this genre is. Now, this is one of the weaker mysteries in the set, but ultimately the execution of it is better and it has some better characters. The story is River arrives in England. I don't remember the time period now, but it's like a time of civil war between, the time's not important. It only really plays an importance in setting the scene, but River, in disguise as a nun, comes to an abbey looking for a lost book, a lost illumination. And as she's staying there, she's finding out that a lot of the nuns are being plagued by this mysterious illness. And there are 3 major characters in this story that we meet. There is Sister Ursula, who is sort of the keeper of this library, and she's really interesting because, despite her feud with one of the other sisters, because I'll talk about her in a minute, she's dedicated to the preserving of history. And as we learn more about Sister Ursula, she becomes such a fascinating character. Then there's Sister Patrick, who is sort of the nurse, and she is administering care to the sick nuns as best as possible. I like her as well. She starts off on the wrong foot with River, but as the story progresses, they sort of reach an understanding. And just overall, I'm going to say this again with the third nun we meet, but the pacing of this story is really good. Everything flows really nicely. Things develop at a good pace. You never feel bored listening to this story. And the final nun we meet is Sister Magdalene, the extremely devout religious, type nun. And as I said, she's in a feud with Sister Ursula because she sees a lot of the books that their library is collecting that Sister Ursula is taking care of as heretical. And, Sister Magdalena is not a new character. We've seen this character before. Margaret White, or, to call back to another Doctor Who story, Lady Tremaine from Winter for the Adept. Exactly where this character is going. But, like I said, the development and the performance is handled really well here. So, it doesn't feel, even though it's an old character archetype, it doesn't feel old. It's still very enjoyable. And, like I said, this is one of the weaker mysteries because this story has so much going on. The Mother Abbess is dead, there's this plague going on, this mysterious book River wants to collect for... Actually, I don't think they ever explain why she wants it. And, all of the events are linked, but it doesn't feel like they should be because the story meanders. It doesn't know what it wants to focus of. And that's really the one weakness of Abbey of Heretics because, like I said, the character interactions and the characters themselves are really good. The third story is Barrister to the Stars by James Kettle, a new writer to Big Finish. This is a play on sort of the courtroom drama type of mystery. And River has been accused of killing an intergalactic warlord, and she's put on trial. But the place she is put on trial in says that she can choose the method of her trial. So River chooses 19th century English law because, by her own admission, it takes the longest. And for her defense, for her counsel, she chooses a barrister, technically a lawyer from that time, named Mr. Hodgkiss. And Mr. Hodgkiss is great. He is just such a fun character. Like, when River first explains that he's on another planet and that he's in another time, his response is basically, oh, yeah, no, I'm panicking on the inside, but I find focusing on the case is really keeping me calm. And his chemistry with River is so good. They are such a great duo. I hope to see more of Mr. Hodgkiss in the future, if I'm being honest. Not in anything, not just the Diary of River song, but and really the courtroom scenes, like, I say this genre is courtroom drama, but it's more courtroom drama. Because as I said, River chose English law because it is one of the longest processes, and she needs to find the time to see who really killed this warlord. And she needs the time to see who really killed this warlord. So really the courtroom scenes are more of a farce, because that's not where the real mystery is, although there are some good developments there, and they're really fun. In fact, on the whole, this story is just really fun and hugely entertaining. Like Abbey of Heretics, the characters are great. There's the integers. They are the clone servants who are sort of responsible for the upkeep of this sort of courthouse type location they're at. And even though they're all clones, the actress does a really good job at sort of making them distinct enough. And there's a lot of fun dialogue around them too. Like River makes them arm wrestle in one scene, and because they're clones, they're evenly matched. And when Hotchkiss asked who she bet on, River's like, "Oh, I don't remember anymore." And the other people in this story, the other suspects in this story, because I should have provided the context earlier, this warlord was at a peace conference trying to settle this conflict with his other enemies. All of these other ambassadors are really great, really distinct characters. Like, there's a telepath from a race of telepaths, and because they're telepaths, they have low self-esteem about themselves. And there's a sentient acidic bowl of soup with a personality to match. And there is another one who is stuck in sort of a time distortion where he's half an hour behind everything going on. And like I said, all the characters are really well done, and they have a lot of, and they're integrated well enough that you can suspect any one of them. And even though the warlord, River, is accused of killing is dead, he does still show up in the story, because he kind of has an interactive afterlife, if that makes any sense. It's a really small detail, but he's also really great. And even at the end, there's a really good twist that I don't want to spoil, but it's just enough to make you question everything that just happened. And the finale of Series 7, Carnival of Angels by Roy Gill. Whereas Colony of Strangers is sort of a Scandi noir, Carnival of Angels is more of a traditional noir, mixed in with a bit of a conspiracy thriller. And this was sort of the major selling point of Series 7, that as River would go on her own and investigate these mysteries, she would once again come into contact with the Weeping Angels, in a story that is the prequel to The Angels Take Manhattan. And so I was kind of excited for that. The Angels Take Manhattan is a decent story. I, in particular, really like the companion departure, but the story itself is, until that point, is just really blah. But, so, where do I want to go from there? But I liked it, and I was hyped for this, because the last Weeping Angels story I heard, Fallen Angels, from Classic Doctor's New Monsters Volume 1, which is my favorite 5th Doctor audio, was really good. And there was an 8th Doctor Weeping Angels audio in Doom Coalition with the Weeping Monk that I haven't heard yet, so I can't talk about that one. But this one is just really great. It opens with a man. I think his name was Sam. I don't remember. And he's doing, the typical noir narration as he walks in to meet Melody Malone, River's sort of persona. And, because he had this case that... Where did I want to go from there? And because he has this case, because he says he saw himself die in an alleyway. And, River immediately knows what happened, that a weeping angel was behind it. And I'm going to stop there for a second in the recap because I kind of forgot to talk about this. As I said, this story is written by Roy Gill. A few of Roy Gill's other stories I've heard, I've liked, but I was kind of nervous for this one because the last Diary of River Song story he wrote, I wasn't a particular fan of. He wrote Animal Instinct in Series 5, the Jeffrey Beaver story, aka the weakest story in Series 5. And because I wasn't a fan of that story, knowing he wrote this, I was, again, just kind of nervous. But listening to it, it's actually really good. Speaking of Animal Instinct, River's student, I believe Luke was his name, is back in this story, and he's used okay. He meets someone in a freak show named Dean, and, they kind of imply that there's a thing going on there, but Luke's performance is great, but Dean's is... Their chemistry is kind of flat. Both actors do a good job performance-wise, but they don't really have any chemistry. And... No... This story goes in a few different directions. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go in talking about it. I would say that... Oh, well... And we meet the story's villain, Ms. Quirk, who is the head of the freak show, and she is under the influence of the Weeping Angels, which I get where Stephen Moffat was going when he introduced that. You can't, every time you introduce an old monster, you kind of have to do something new with them, so the formula doesn't get stale. I get that, but I've personally never been a fan of the Weeping Angels being able to psychically influence people. Just... The way they're described, they're predators. They're, even though they have a humanoid appearance, they are one of the most vicious animals in the universe. And just them saying, "Oh, I'm mind controlling you to feed me." I've just never been a fan of that. And the actress playing Ms. Quirk, her performance is really grating. It's just because the accent she's using is very pronounced. It's very obviously, I'm an actor putting on an accent. And then when we learn she's influenced by the angel, it gets very wistful, very dreamy, and it's just so grating. I mentioned Dean. And then the client, Sam, I believe his name was, the person who hired River. There's a scene in the Carnival, because they go to Coney Island, in a mirror maze. And that scene is so well done. Just the music, the tension, everything building up to it is just amazingly handled. And, because time loop, it's a closed loop. When it actually happens, when the angel gets him and sends him back to the past, to the moment of his death, you think you're expecting it. You think you know what's going to happen because we already got it in flashback because he already told River what happened. But then it actually happens. And it is combined with just that mirror maze scene we just got and the music. Howard Carter's music is really good, by the way. It is such a haunting scene. Like I said, I thought, oh, we got this in flashback. This is just more of the same. They're just doing the same scene to pad it out, but that's not the case. And even though he's dead, he still pipes in to narrate every so often, and just the narration in that particular scene is really good, as well as the ending narration. There is one other thing, too, and I am going to be more spoiler-free, more I'm going to be less spoiler-wary in this story because, again, it's a prequel to The Angels Take Manhattan. And Big Finish advertised that the Weeping Angels were in this story. So we know what's happening in this story. As I was saying, there is one other thing they introduced in this story, that there is a hierarchy to Weeping Angels. And I think it's an interesting enough idea, but they don't do that much with it. River pretty much just says, oh, there's a hierarchy, and that's kind of it. And, she says there's the lesser angels, like the one in the mirror maze, the weeping angels we commonly see, and then there's major arcana, which are really old, really big angels. And I really think that line was really just written to justify the twist of the Angels Manhattan, that the Statue of Liberty is a weeping angel, and it really doesn't. It's a stupid twist, and if I'm being honest, giant weeping angels, after hearing this and knowing what the focus of this story was, giant weeping angels in general is a really stupid idea. And although I will say the way River defeats it is really clever. And, there was one thing I want to mention. Along with being a prequel to The Angels Take Manhattan, this is a sequel to Animal Instinct from Series 5, because Luke, River's student, in that story, he was turned into a werecat type of creature. And in this story, River has, quote-unquote, cured him, but he's still prone to transforming. And the way this ends, I hope we get to see more of Luke in the future, but Carnival of Angels, I think, does everything Colony of Strangers tried to do, but it does it better, because you have a good story and interesting characters on top of this really tense atmosphere. And, it's just... And like I said, some of those scenes are just so well handled. And this story alone is worth it. And now, time for the wrap-up. First off, I'll start with the ranking, my personal ranking of Series 7 stories, from the weakest to what I thought was the best. Colony of Strangers, Abbey of Heretics, Carnival of Strangers, Barrister to the Stars. On the whole, though, the Diary of River Song Series 7 is really average. I mean, it's got, again, some great stories, some good ideas, and really good characters. And the pacing is mostly handled well, but, I mean, this story doesn't have the same entertainment value that some of the other series have. And, it's like, you can have a good story, but if you're boring, I'm not going to be as entertained. I'm not going to be as inclined. I'm not going to be as engaged. I'm not going to be as entertained. So, personally, I find more value in entertainment than quality. Like, if I were to rank the series right now, I would say Series 1 is the weakest, Series 6, Series 4, Series 7, Series 3, Series 5, Series 2 is the best. But it is still really fun. I would say, as far as a recommendation goes, I would say this is a download only. I mean, I'm a completionist. It's my favorite spinoff, so I'm still getting the physical copy, and there is still a lot to like about it, but it's not one of the stronger sets. And I think they're going to be taking a break this year. We'll have to see, because the last few years, the Diary of River Song has been bi-yearly, 2 releases a year, and they announced Series 7, but I haven't heard anything about a Series 8 yet, so I don't know because Big Finish is starting to cut back on just how much content they produce year-round. They're going to once a year again, or if they're kind of stopping the series here. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I do like that River is standing on her own feet, and in fact, Alex Kingston has to be one of the most charismatic women alive, because every character she interacts with, she just clicks in some way. The chemistry is just immediate and amazing. But yeah, I'd say Series 7 is mostly just average. Like I said, I recommend it as download only. But those are my thoughts on the Diary of River Song Series 7. What are yours? Please Start a conversation in the comments below. I like hearing your guys' feedback. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video as it helps my channel grow. In the description box below, you'll find the link to my Ko-fi, where you can support the channel if you're feeling charitable. And you'll find the link to my Twitter, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is the Sentinel, watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.